Canada has passed Bill C-45, also known as the Cannabis Act, which legalizes cannabis for recreational use, and Canada is only the second country in the world behind Uruguay to do this. Now, while cannabis is going to be legal, it's not legal yet. So it's actually going to become legal on October 17th. Now, why October 17th? Well, as Kevin McDougall on Twitter points out, October 17th equals 10 divided by 17. 10 divided by 17 equals 0.588235529, and you add all those numbers together, and you get 420. Oh yeah. But of course, that is not the reason that cannabis is going to be legal on October 17th. The actual reason is that a lot of the provinces, including Quebec, requested more time to prepare, and that's what Trudeau gave them. So there you go. But one province that did not need more time is New Brunswick, who already has one of their stores set up. So let's check it out here. Here is the an image of the outside. It's called Cannabis NB. Obviously, NB stands for New Brunswick. It's very clean inside, very nice looking, very elegant. The third image here is a concept of how the other half of this inside of the store may look like, with iPads set up, which I assume will be used to actually no, they're using iPads to, I believe, sell the cannabis as well as research it. So the way they're actually rolling it out is that the online stores will also will work in conjunction with the actual physical stores. So sales will be done, from what I understand so far, will be done through the website, both online and both in person. Obviously, though, when you're in person, you actually get the product immediately. Now, let me go through some of the details here. Now, there is good and there is bad. First, let me go through some of the good. So this is what the this cannabis law will allow. Upon coming into force, adults in Canada will be legally allowed to purchase fresh or dried cannabis, cannabis oil, plants, and seeds for cultivation from either a provincially or territorially regulated retailer, or where this operation is not available, directly from a federally licensed producer. Possess up to 30 grams of dried legal cannabis or its equivalent in public. Share up to 30 grams or its equivalent of legal cannabis and legal cannabis products with other adults. Cultivate up to 4 plants at home, 4 plants total per household, and prepare varying types of cannabis products, like edibles, at home for personal use, provided that no dangerous organic solvents are used in the process. Now, that's mostly good. Now, the actual age limit is varying depending on your province. So right now, it ranges between 18 and I think 21. I don't think any province has gone above 21. But this largely is good. But there is a negative part of how this is being legalized, or really what is not being addressed in legalization. Let's start with, I think, the most important one. So, when asked Wednesday if the government was considering pardons for Canadians convicted of marijuana-related offenses, Minister of Justice Jody Wilson-Raybould said such a question was premature. Premature. It's premature to think about the people that have convictions, marijuana convictions, possession convictions on their record, even though it's going to be legalized. So this is one aspect that is not being dealt with yet, and it should. Now, another related aspect is the amount of money that is being poured into police departments because of legalization. Now, you'd think when you legalize a product, when you legalize cannabis, you would need less police oversight, less investment into that area of the police force, into enforcing drug laws. But no, apparently you need more money. So here are just a few examples. More police, legalized weed behind 3.5% Edmonton tax increase. Cannabis laws to cost Waterloo Regional Police $2.63 million or more. Ontario vows to give municipalities $40 million for marijuana law enforcement. So again, it's being legalized. This was illegal before. But legalizing it, you need to put more money into the police forces. Now, I understand a part of it. So there is an educational aspect of it. And yes, the police should be educated on cannabis and, what not to bother people over, that sort of thing. But this seems to go above and beyond that. Now, so just for comparison's sake here, let me show you how Colorado did it. So after they legalized cannabis, statewide pot busts are already dropping. In January 2014, a Denver Post investigation found that marijuana court charges plummeted 77% in the year following the passage of Amendment 64. And this wasn't just for minor marijuana offenses that had been legalized by the amendment. Charges for possessing 12 ounces of pot or more also dropped by nearly 3/4, and possessing 5 pounds or less with intent to distribute plunged by 70%. So Colorado, after legalizing, did the obvious thing. Spent less money, spent less time on enforcing marijuana laws because they had just legalized the plant and there was less to deal with. Seems kind of obvious, but apparently not here. Now, to be fair, Colorado police did collect tax revenue from the new law, from legalization. But where did that money go? Here's where it went. Colorado police agencies armed with $21 million in marijuana tax revenue try to steer mentally ill, drug addicted away from jail. In a new approach, police in 10 communities will divvy up the $21.5 million in aid from Colorado to try cleaning up high crime areas by steering people struggling with drug addiction and mental health disorders toward treatment and housing instead of incarceration. Now, if the Canadian police were going to do that, then I'd be fine with it. But from everything I've read, the reason they are requesting more money to deal with cannabis is not to, house people instead of incarceration. It's to incarcerate. So the reasons that they've quoted for needing more money is, one, impaired driving. I have news for you. Driving while high is already illegal. Now, their argument would be, well, more people now are going to smoke weed and drive because it's becoming legalized. Not necessarily. The areas where cannabis has been legalized, there hasn't been a massive uptick in the amount of people that actually use the drug. So this is what's going to happen. The stats on impaired driving are going to see a huge jump. And it's not going to be because more people are smoking while high. It's going to be because there is now more money put into that specifically. Police will be stopping everybody looking for people who are driving while high. So, yeah, you're likely going to find more people driving while high, but it's not because there was an uptick in the amount of people doing it. It's simply because you are now looking for it more because you are given all this new money. Now, the other thing they quote for needing this money is illegal cannabis activity, which is just a vague term. Who knows what it actually means? But yeah, sure, we're legalizing cannabis, but we need the money for illegal cannabis activity. Doesn't legalization cut down on, possession charges, cut down on, cultivation, on all these areas, cut down on the black market, all these areas where the law was enforced on cannabis is now not going to be. But even though it's not going to be enforced in those areas, you for some reason need more money. How about just shuffling some of that money around? The money you used for charging people with possession, or the money used in seeking out black market cannabis, can now be cut down a bit because it's going to cut down on these things naturally. So I just don't, whatever. I don't want to get too deep into this because ultimately this is positive. Ultimately, this is actually a good thing. Legalizing cannabis is a step in the right direction. Not everything is going to be perfect at the beginning, but this is going to get better. You can push your provincial government and the federal government to improve aspects of this law. Now, the other parts of this I didn't address were edibles. So there's going to be no sale of edibles at the launch of legalization. So edibles is something that's going to be dealt with next year. But as I said earlier, you can make your own edibles. So I don't think it's a huge deal yet, but there should be an edibles market, obviously. And the other aspect I didn't touch on was private retail sales. So Most provinces are selling cannabis themselves in their own retail stores and not allowing a private retail aspect of it. I think BC is one of the only provinces that is allowing that. So we're going to see how it works in BC. And really, it's already happening in BC. So there are a ton of dispensaries in BC and in Ontario. But in Ontario, they're being shut down because Ontario is not allowing private retail sales. So I think this is an area where it's going to be expanded. It's just a matter of time. But at launch, it's not going to be. And I mean, we got to deal with it. That's how it is. So again, this is a step in the right direction. I just wish some of this stuff around it was cleaned up. But ultimately, Canada being the second country in the world to legalize recreational cannabis is a good thing. Hey, if you like this video, hit that subscribe button below and consider throwing me a few bucks on Patreon at patreon.com/therationalnational or therationalnational.com/join.